Oh, no problem. Thank you. Yeah, I have a little kitty here right now, so I'm just going to show off my little helper for a moment before starting, because it seems like we just have one person in right now. Are you doing anything special for Halloween? Hey, buddy. Look at my good kidder. Look at my good kidder. Oh, hello. Oh, look. Got two people now. Yeah. We're back to this studio helper. Oh, hello, studio helper. Yeah. You're my good boy. His sister's asleep in the other room. But I have a neuron here. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Who have I got here now? I seem to have two people now. Oi, tia. Tudo bom? Oh, I guess I made this stream public. Fascinating. Okay, so we may end up having a few more people. Nice. Well, not a problem at all. I don't think anyone minds. I've got a public, one of my Patreon streams is public. Not a problem. I'll just be creating some bonus content. So if you didn't come here from Patreon, today I'm doing a stream on drawing flat patterns on curved objects, and so I'll be focusing on pumpkins because it's Halloween. So this stream, it is currently 3 p.m. where I am, and so trick-or-treaters usually start pretty early here because it gets dark and cold at night. So I'll be finishing up this stream just as the first trick-or-treaters arrive, usually around 5 or just before that. So I'm aiming to do about 90 minutes to 2 hours on this stream. I'm pretty sure this time I actually timed this so I have an appropriate amount of content for the time that I've given myself. I tend to try to cram too much content into not enough time. Como vai, tia? I think I might actually just put up an announcement post since I did not realize that I had this public. Since it is public, I might as well welcome more people in. So I'm just going to go handle that right now while we still only have a few people. Is anyone doing anything special for Halloween? we have any big Halloween fans here? Are you dressing up? Do we have cool costumes? Do we have people with kids who are dressing up? I would love to see some costumes posted. So if you want to let me know, that'd be great. Oh, sorry. No. No, 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 no. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, all right, so I guess I'll just start going over the topic of today's video. And people can join in as they do. Oh, look, I have 3 people now. Hooray, welcome new person. It'd be nice to have perhaps a slightly busier stream than usual with my Patreon streams. The Patreon streams tend to be pretty quiet, so they're almost like semi-private lessons because they're usually paid. So on Fridays, I run a free stream every Friday. But I just turn my camera on whatever I'm working on. And then for these Patreon streams, usually I have a more structured topic, like some sort of tutorial or discussion or something more, a little bit more of a structured, like a class setup. So today I'm talking about when you have a pattern, like say a face, like a jack-o'-lantern face, and you are painting that. So you are painting a curved subject, like a curved complex subject, like, for example, a pumpkin, which is both round overall and also has ridges. And then you are putting your face and you're painting shadows over that, and how to work that out. So you can, of course, use a reference, either a photo or a actual reference object. And I would totally encourage you to do that if you are uncomfortable with what I'm, like, if you're not quite understanding what I'm saying, I would totally encourage you to go find your own reference. It doesn't have to be a pumpkin, any kind of other irregularly shaped sort of round object. So any kind of other fruit would also work. Be creative, anything in your studio. Like I could have done this, you know, using this little bud vase. All of these things are totally acceptable. I'm doing pumpkins because it's Halloween. Não consigo digitar, agora deu certo. Estou fazendo pizza de Halloween também. Daqui a pouco o pessoal vai chegar. Ai, que delícia! Então vem as meninas. Como está o pessoal lá? Todas. Nossa, delícia! Ai, que saudade! Okay, so, sorry, back to stream stuff. Okay, so, the first thing I'm going to do is come up with a basic pattern that we're going to be working with. So, I'm going to draw a basic jack-o'-lantern face, like a carved pumpkin face. I know that not everyone has the same Halloween traditions, but here in Canada, we carve pumpkins to let trick-or-treaters who are coming to our door. So kids will dress up in costume, they'll come to our door and ask for candy. They say trick-or-treat, we give them candy, and to signal to the visitors that we have candy available, the traditional thing is to carve a pumpkin. So you hollow it out, you take out all the seeds out of the middle, and you carve out the outside of the pumpkin. You carve a face on it. Marina passou na sociologia na cidade de Brasília, Clarice formando design, e Diana vai fazer mestrado em artes. Ai! Nossa, já estão tão crescidas. Sorry. So back to pumpkins. So yeah, so the tradition here is, you know, you carve a pumpkin. Now, carving pumpkins is sort of a messy endeavor. We actually have a fake pumpkin that we use every year. It's just a plastic thing that's got a carved face in it. It plugs in and it lights up. But having that carved pumpkin and the light, when the light is on, so you put a candle inside. When the light is on, that means that you're available. If you take the light out, that means you're out of candy or have left, or otherwise your house is not available. If you don't have a pumpkin, you know, it's rude to knock on people's doors if they're not celebrating. So it's just a way of letting people know that you are celebrating and that you want them to come in. I don't know who all is in here right now. 27, 25, 19. Não para não. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is draw out flat what sort of face that I would want, right? So since this is a guided stream and I want to be able to help people export this to whatever they are going to do. Like it doesn't even have to be a pumpkin, but I don't want to just come up with a very specific example that I prepared ahead of time. So I figured we'd have a little bit of a more collaborative exercise here. And so if people in chat can tell me what kind of face you want, like do you want a happy face, an angry face? What do you want the eyes to look like? It is going to be a fairly simple design just so that it's really clear what I'm doing as I go through this, but I'm very open to suggestions on the specifics. So what do you want? What would you like your ideal pumpkin to look like? Sorry, I'm just gonna refill the water. Oh, you know what? No, I'm just gonna. I'll Oh, good. How do we have any advice on pumpkin faces? Pumpkin faces, anyone? Are we looking for happy, angry, or scary? Do we want teeth? Do we want a multi-layered thing so you can cut just the skin off of the pumpkin and then it'll glow partially? So I can do some of that if we want to do different layers. Now, most of this demonstration I'm just going to be doing in black and white in pencil or pen. I might get out some colored pencils just to make different, like show different lines. Okay, so while I'm waiting for people to come up with what they want their pumpkins to look like, I'm going to draw myself a very basic grid. Okay, so this doesn't need to be very exact. It's just a guide to help you understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to have I'm going to draw these in orange. So this is an orange grid, so we're going to have some vertical lines. Roughly evenly spaced, but you can see they're not perfectly evenly spaced because this does not really matter so much. It's all just to help you understand what I'm going to do next. Right? Okay, so I can draw myself a little grid, right? And then I can draw a grid this way. Very high-skilled drawing here. Hello, hello, hello. Ooh, look, more people. Okay, so pumpkins. I'm sorry, I don't have a great description in this video because this was originally going to be a private Patreon stream, and I accidentally made it public, which is wonderful, and you are all welcome. I'm so glad that we have so many people here. But it meant that I didn't really make it super clear in the video description what I'm doing. So I'm gonna keep on repeating this a few times as people come in, but I am talking about projecting images from a flat surface onto a curved complex surface. So for example, if you have a flat face design, like a simple face design, how to project it onto a pumpkin to make a jack-o'-lantern. So if you are painting a watercolor or drawing out an ink painting of a jack-o'-lantern, how would you draw that face so that it looks curved on your curved surface, right? So it looks like a face, but it's curved over your surface. Does that make sense? And then also get into a little bit of how that interacts with shadows and stuff. So I'm starting out with just drawing a jack-o'-lantern face, like just a simple, like how I would draw my design if I was designing a jack-o'-lantern. So I haven't come with a prepared jack-o'-lantern design. I've come to you. I can just draw one if nobody wants to give me some pointers, but I would love to hear some advice on what you want to see. Like, do you want something scary? Do you want something angry? Do you want something happy? Do you want round eyes? triangle eyes. Just tell me what you want and I will draw up that little design. And then I will, okay, so from here I'm just going to subdivide this up a little bit more. So this will be just a little bit of a basic grid in here. And that'll let me know where everything falls. Okay, so I've got a basic grid. I could also do this on grid paper. I could transfer this, but I'll show you how this will play out in a moment. I'm going to use a darker orange actually to show some of these bigger grid lines, because I think that'll actually help communicate this later, the way I am going to do this. Okay, so I'm going to have something like this. This will be the area that I'm going to draw a face in, and I will draw a face in a different color, like say I can draw it in blue. That's a color. What have we here? Do we have any advice for what I'm drawing as a pumpkin face yet? Please, somebody, tell me what I'm drawing. 9 people watching me draw a grid. Somebody tell me what kind of pumpkin face I'm drawing. Okay. What if I make I'm going to make a weird sad face with teeth, okay? Just so that it's, it's a little bit interesting as a shape. So I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to so here is the basic shape of my mouth. Do we have some advice on eyes? We're just gonna make it up as I go along. Make it up as I go along. Hoping to make this a little bit more interactive, guys. Come on, somebody pitch in. Do we want a nose on this pumpkin? Okay, I am going to draw a nose on this pumpkin. I'm going to draw a nose that looks like this. It's going to have this shape, and then it's going to have 2 little holes. And then I'm going to draw 2 eyes here. Okay? I'll draw 1 eye and 1 eye higher, just to really make this interesting. And then I'm going to draw some eyebrows. Okay, so this is my basic face. So next I'm going to figure out where I want to put it on a pumpkin, right? So I'm going to say that I have a fairly large pumpkin. So this is going to cover like maybe half the pumpkin, maybe like a third of the pumpkin, okay? So I deliberately am working this from just imagination. I don't have this pumpkin in front of me because this is a tutorial about understanding how to draw a geometric shape. So you should be able to do this. That's not what I meant to say. The exercise that I'm working with right now is practicing understanding how to draw a 3D shape. Like understanding how that looks, not just looking at an object and copying what you see, if that makes sense. So I could, of course, find myself a pumpkin, carve this shape, take a picture, and then copy the picture, right? That would be the easiest way. That would be the easiest way for me to figure out how this face would look on a specific pumpkin. But since I don't have a pumpkin in front of me, and I certainly don't want to put in the time to carve one, it's a really messy, long process. I am not going to do that. So instead I'm going to use some other props to help visualize. So here I've got 2 different dog toys. That'll help me communicate to you what I'm doing. So these are the 2 props that I'm going to use. So the first one is this round ball that's got this hex pattern on it. Sorry, not hex. Oh yes, hex. So sorry, these are hex. And then it's whatever, it's a soccer ball pattern, but it's all it's a grid. Kind of a neat thing. And then the other one is a classic Kong, which has ridges that are sort of like a pumpkin. So that's a helpful reference. If I'm having trouble figuring out how something works, I can find an object that has similar features and try to understand it that way, without necessarily having the exact pumpkin that I am going to draw right in front of me. So if I start with a perfect sphere, right? Now, I can divide a sphere a number of different ways, but a common one would be how you divide a globe, right? So you divide a globe like this, and then you, in the other dimension, you wrap like this, right? So if you were to visualize this grid, you could map it on this way. It's not going to be perfect, depending on how you project it. So you can't just take a flat piece of paper. If you take a flat piece of paper and you try to wrap it over a, here, I'll actually do this for real. If I take a flat piece of paper and I have my grid on it and I try to wrap it over a sphere, it doesn't wrap perfectly, right? So when you're wrapping a sphere, what you end up doing is you have to figure out what the projection is. So some of the squares are going to be more stretched out and some of them are going to be smaller. From this, And the more of the sphere that you're covering, the more that that's going to come into play. So if I was going to draw this just on one little section of the sphere, it would be very close to just a grid. And if I try to cover the whole thing, then there's going to be more distortion. It's feeling a little quiet in here. Do I have some activity in the chat? Somebody talk to me. I feel all alone. Okay. Right. So that's if I have a perfect sphere. Now, a pumpkin is usually not a perfect sphere. I mean, for starters, there's the issue of the ridges. So back to my dog toys. Pumpkins have ridges along their sides, many of them. Certainly the classic Halloween pumpkins do. And then sometimes they're bigger on the bottom, or they're lopsided, or they're more of an egg shape. So again, I ended up just drawing this off the top of my head. But if somebody wants to jump in with a specific shape of pumpkin, like you want something that's really wide and flat, or you want something that's skinnier on top, or you want a really tall pumpkin, or a pumpkin that's kind of curved, go on in the comments and tell me what shape of pumpkin I should project this onto. So next I'm gonna draw a pumpkin. Any takers? Come on, anything? I feel like I'm the teacher in class calling on shy students. Come on, what shape of pumpkin should I draw? It doesn't have to be scary, I promise. Okay. So again, I'm gonna choose something that's just a little interesting. Try to get some, unless somebody's gonna come and jump in. Somebody wanna jump in with a shape of pumpkin? Last chance. Okay, so I'm gonna draw something that looks a bit like this. It's gonna be a little bit irregular, just to make things a little bit interesting. So it's not gonna be a perfect circle at all. And this might look like, oh, well, I'm making my life extra complicated. And the truth is I'm not. It would be harder to do this on a perfect circle, because with an imperfect circle, there's much more room for, no, I meant to do that. Whereas if you try to make this into a perfect sphere, you don't make it into a perfect sphere, then it looks really off. But pumpkins, being irregular, a little bit forgiving this way of my imperfect drawing. Okay, so you'll notice on this sketch that I've got, I've drawn in some darker lines every second line and some lighter lines. And that is deliberate, because if I take a pumpkin, right? I have my pumpkin, and so I've drawn my pumpkin this way, and I take my lighter orange color, and we'll say that the lighter orange color is the top of the ridges, right? So if I look at this, I'm going to make my life simpler here by saying these lighter orange grids are going to be the middle of the ridges, and the darker ones are going to be the like these divots, right? So again, this is not a pumpkin, this is a Kong toy, but I'm deliberately doing this from imagination to help communicate that you can apply this to any problem. This is about understanding how objects look in 3D space and being able to take a reference and adjust it. So you don't need to have exactly a photo of this face on this pumpkin to be able to draw this. Which is good because often you don't have exactly the things that you want. Right? Okay, so I'm going to draw these. So initially I'm drawing with this light color, but then what's going to happen is where I've got this light color, this lighter color, is going to be actually okay. So in here, I'm going to say, okay, so this is actually the divot in the pumpkin that I've just drawn, right? So this is going to be that darker section that's in shadow. Which means that then in the middle of this, following this curve, I'm going to have a lighter section, right? So I'm going to, again, draw this a little bit darker to make it a little bit clearer. And then likewise here. So here I'm actually not showing where that line is because it wraps behind. So I don't see it. So that's going to be over here. And this is going to be this side, right? On this side, I do actually see that divot. Oh, you know what? No, I am going to make that. I am going to make that a full divot. I'm going to make this a sort of flattened pumpkin. And then I'm going to say, well, this is the lighter line. So this is the thing about a pumpkin, right? Is I can, because I'm making this up as I go along, I can draw this pumpkin however I want. So then I can have a stem here, right? This is a super useful exercise to learn how to do if you're going to have to work from photo references that aren't your own. So sometimes I get commissioned to paint, for example, a flower that is not in season. So somebody wants me to paint a specific tulip right now, right? Tulips bloom in the spring. It is currently fall where I live. There's no way I'm going to get that tulip. So I can't have a live reference in front of me. And chances are I don't have my own photos in exactly the position that I want for that tulip. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to find other references. And I'm going to have to compose an image. I'm going to have to make it happen, not copy an existing image. Sorry, so then this one is going to be the light one. And again, what you're going to end up seeing is that over in here, the other side of that is actually hidden behind, right? And likewise here, the other side of that ridge is going to be hidden behind. Does that make sense? Okay, now for these lines going around, so if this was a globe, usually your latitude lines, is what it's called on a globe, are just straight, like they're slices across. So that if you were to view a globe from the top, it's often divided like this, right? And then you have your quadrants, and then you can divide that up further. like an orange with its segments, which means that if you unwrap a globe, you end up with this sort of shape, right? Instead of something like this. So there's some distortion. Now, usually the latitude sections of a globe, they're going to be something else, right? So instead of being, if I were to draw a globe, sorry. How is everyone? I would love some feedback here about whether what I'm talking about is of use to anyone, if you're enjoying this content, if you have any questions, like I'm here for you. This is meant to be a useful tutorial sort of thing. This is in these Patreon streams, so this is, again, was meant to be a Patreon exclusive stream, and I accidentally made it public, and that is awesome. If you are here and you caught it by accident by hitting an accidentally public stream, welcome. I'm really glad to have you. Totally fine with me to sometimes offer content to more people than I meant to. Not at all a problem. But these are meant to be more like class sort of situations than I usually do for, say, a public stream on a Friday. So I also stream on Fridays. Okay, so if I were to separate out a globe, right, if I were to cut along where the latitude lines are, what I would end up with is like these slices, right? Where I have a globe. Seems like I'm drawing more of an egg. Right? But you get the idea. Where if I were to separate these out, what I'll get is these slices. So this, if I were to draw this around my pumpkin, if I were to view it, if I were to imagine that this pumpkin is just an egg sort of shape, that it's just the outermost sides, right? Then I would end up with some rings that go like this. Now, because they're going to wrap around, they're going to be connected at these points, but then they're going to dive in a little to meet in here, right? So in the middle, in the very middle of the face on, sorry, let's do that this way. As you're going up, so face on, where my eye level is, it's just going to be a flat line. So that's just going to be a ring like you would see in a globe. But on the other sides, I'm going to have more of shape to it. So here I'm going to be going, sorry, yeah. I have all of them up slightly. Right, so this does depend a little bit on where your eye level is, but I'm gonna project it like this. And with this, again, I have a little bit of choice, a little bit of flexibility here, because I am working on pumpkin. Pumpkins are odd shapes. I can decide exactly where my eye level is. So you'll notice I changed my mind actually partway through this. I'm just trying to create some additional clarity here. Right, so if I were to choose then, okay, well, these are going to be the heavy lines, right? Just for consistency. Again, it's going to help me basically grid layout. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the concept of grid transferring. So this is going to be just more of a straight line up here, and then as it gets more right. Okay, so I don't know why that one is so out there. Whatever. That's the basic notion. So then if I take this and I say, okay, well, that's going to be here, right? I'm going to take this here, and it's going to go up halfway to here, up over here. And then it's going to go over on this one, down, and where does it meet? It goes all the way down to this, which I haven't even drawn in. And I'm going to have a tooth in there and another tooth right. Oh, no, sorry. So there's some figuring out where, like, okay, well, this is one of my lines, right? So I'm going to have to figure that out. Okay, well, if I am going to kind of need to follow the curve of these, right? So this needs to curve up from this to this, but it's going to curve not in the same way, right? So here, I'm going to go in here, and then it's going to go back out. Does that make sense? So this needs to be on this line, basically. And again, I can find where this intersects this line. So this intersects that line right at my, oh, it's even higher. Okay, so this intersects here, right at the edge of this tooth, which actually needs to be up here, right? So then I can sort of start figuring this out using a like a grid system, but it's a distorted grid, right? So again, this one is going to be in here, but this tooth is going to be all janky because it's right in that curve. This one, again, is going to be all janky because it's curving into there. Then I just need to look in here, and that needs to go in there. Hi, Jenny. Welcome here. I'm pretty sure I actually screwed this up. So I'm demonstrating something that I'm not doing the best job of. Sorry, y'all. So this one actually needs to go all the way over here to here. And again, since this goes up a little, it's actually going to look a little weird because it's going to get curved down. That makes sense? Like this gets curved up in here, so this is actually going to get curved into here. I'm doing a really poor job of explaining this and also of actually executing here. This is really bad. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so this is going to be in here, and that one's going to be up in there. It's a little higher. Over here. And that one's going to have a little bit of distortion here, and there's going to be a bit of a distortion on this one too. And then we're going to again come up in here, and this is really not the great demonstration that I wanted to give of this concept. But it is getting some of this idea across. So if I were to take this and I were to do a somewhat more thorough job of it, right? And I were to say, okay, but I'm going to start adding in some of the shadows. So say I've got light coming in from this side, right? So everything that's on here is going to be in shadow. So if I think of this as like this original shape, right? Certainly everything that's in here is going to be in shadow. Everything that's in here is going to be in shadow over on this side. So I'll have light shadow with just a little bit of cast light back around the edge. And then where I have these, they're going to be in deeper shadow. But then there's an additional challenge because of this shape, right? So where I have the light coming in and I've got a divot in here, that's going to be a little bit in extra shadow because this section of the pumpkin is casting a shadow on the next section here, right? Dang, last time I've run this workshop with very different subjects, and I thought pumpkins would make a great subject for this. They're a little bit much. Yeah, there's a lot going on in a pumpkin, in a carved pumpkin. So I hope I'm not totally losing people here. But I'm gonna start shading that in, and I'm actually going to use a green in here to really get that deeper color, and then some orange, some more of that blue, and then I might actually go in with Sharpie of all things. to really refine this. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do, to really make it really clear where the shape is meant to be. I'm going to throw it in Sharpie. Am I ruining the thing behind it? A little bit. It's fine. So I haven't done the best version of this demo that I've ever done, but where, for example, you have a divot that intercepts one of these lines, you're going to see that that tooth no longer looks straight. It looks curved up. Right? Okay. And so where I have this, I have a curve. I'm trying to figure out what. This one's actually almost flat, so it's only just going to look a little bit sort of flattened out, a little bit stretched out, this one. But then where this is going to be a little bit more. So here I have this one, and then again in here, this is going to have to come out, and this is going to have to come out because it's right on this curve. I hope that all of this is making sense as I'm doing this. My goodness, what a weird little demo. Sorry, everyone. I feel like I'm really messing this up a little. Where I have my lighter areas, I'm going to add some yellow. So where light is hitting is going to be right along these edges. So I'm going to have some light, some very like white, and then right around the edges I'm going to have some yellow. And then where these come in a little bit further, so I'm going to have a tiny bit of my shadow color in here. It's going to come up and just shade this out. So again, the point here, I'm doing a demo. This is obviously not the world's best drawing, nor is it meant to be. But I hope that I am getting across somewhat sort of the logic of how shapes interact with patterns like this. You can also do like a simpler version of this sort of exercise would have fewer variables. So it would be like drawing the skin patterns on a watermelon is another way of doing this exercise. Or I do a similar thing with pine cones. It's a class I've run a few times. Anyway, here in the mid zones, I'm going to have my lighter orange. Do you get many trick-or-treaters? In my current area, not too many. We get about like 25 or 30 most years. Now we do have very nice weather this year. Like it's pretty warm. Often Halloween gets quite yucky here. Like it's frequently like rain, but like really cold rain, like right near zero, or right near, I don't know where you are, right near freezing. So frequently, I think that means that people take less time, are less likely to go out if they're, deciding whether to go out. So we usually only get about 25 to 30. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit more this year, like closer to 30, 35, 40 people, which would be nice. Where I grew up, my parents got 400 people a year. So it feels like it's really not a lot to me, but I don't think that it's actually that few. It's just context, right? So like at my parents' current house in Toronto, they get about 200. The house where I grew up, we would get 400 people. I'm just going to Yes, you're being very informative and clear. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I'm being very informative and clear. I do not feel informative and clear today. I feel quite scattered and uninformative and unclear. But I appreciate the comment nonetheless. The compliment. I have this general feeling that, most, I prefer classes that can be generalized. I prefer to teach in a way that, this isn't just applicable to pumpkins. You could also apply this to other subjects. But the downside to that is I feel like, well, sometimes I ought to prepare myself with the subject that I've chosen a little bit better, because, I have run this class before successfully, but not with pumpkins. And I figured, well, whatever, it's the same concept, I can manage it. But I'm feeling a little bit out of my depth, trying to figure this out as I go along. So anyway, something like that, right? So where you would have a little bit more, so you have the general shape of your shadows, but then it also has to follow these ridges within the pumpkin. Okay, so then there's that, sorry, and then there's a little bit of reflected light here, a little bit of this. So here we have my little colored pencil, little pumpkin guy. I'm gonna throw in a little bit more shading in here. And that is about where I'm at with this guy. I didn't get to watch from the start, but I was able to follow what you were explaining. Okay, good. I think I need to go back to using a grid. Yeah, so once you are a little bit more familiar with a subject, depending on how complicated it is. I mean, the issue with the pumpkin that I'm running into is that I am doing the general shape and I'm doing the ridges, and on top of that I'm doing this cutout, which is affected by both of those things. So usually I only have 2 variables, and here I have 3. Sorry, usually when I run this workshop I only have 2 variables. Here I have 3. And so I'm trying to talk and explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it, which means that I don't feel like I did the best job here. Like I think that some of my, in talking about how to, you know, project things, I feel like I did some of what I'm teaching wrong. I'm happy to see you using colored pencils. I basically only use them for this sort of rough sketching demonstration stuff where I don't want wet paper. So again, we don't have our furnace on, so it is fairly humid in the house, and I don't want to be worrying about layers as I work with this. So colored pencils allow me to do this sort of demonstration or these sort of light sketches without waiting for layers to dry. So I don't do very much finished work in colored pencil anymore because I find it just takes too long and I don't have the patience to keep on rubbing a pencil over and over again. But I do find them useful for stuff like this. I mean, you can sort of see in this where I fail with colored pencils is because I just start hacking away at it. Just don't have the patience to build up my layers slowly enough for this. But it is nice to experiment with different media too, and go out of my comfort zone and do something like this where I'm not working from reference. Another example like this, which I think is really kind of fun and useful, is you take an object or, now I've seen this done with people, but that's a particularly challenging approach to it. But you take an object that's, you know, different in different dimensions, but that you understand. So for example, you know, I have these apothecary bottles. If I were to take an apothecary bottle and its lid and I look at it, so I have this view, and then I flip it, like I take a picture or I lie it down on my desk this way, but I flip it around in my drawing so that I'm drawing this part, right? So based on what I see here, figuring out what the other side looks like. The other thing that I've seen this done with is if you like painting people or animals, the advice is get a still shot of like a figure skater or another athlete in motion. Take that image, sketch, from reference what that body shape is, and then you can use your body to figure out, okay, so if I was in that position, what would this look like from an other angle, and rotate it so then you're drawing that same pose from a different angle. And that is a super, super challenging exercise, but I think it's well worth trying because you learn a lot challenging yourself with stuff like that. And again, you can do these things in your sketchbook. I'm not going to sell this piece. I'm allowed to have things that don't, that's the point of sketchbooks, is to do sketches like this that aren't finished, aren't necessarily something that I'm thrilled with. And I'm happy to be able to share that. I'm confident enough in my own art abilities that, I don't feel like this is, reflecting on, even though I'm not happy with this, that doesn't mean that I'm embarrassed that other people are seeing that. Angela says, thank you for this day. Muito obrigada por assistir. Graphical one looks cool. Joy decision. If I attempted that exercise, it would look interesting. Yep, absolutely. I attempted that exercise a couple of times and it looked interesting most of the time. But again, that's why you have sketchbooks, because things don't need to be perfect this is about being a learning experience, right? So I've got all sorts of things in this sketchbook that are, some of them are great and some of them are less great, and all of them are valuable to me. Anyway, I'm about done with this. I think I'm going to open this up to some questions. I'm happy to hang around a little bit longer, pretty much until I have trick-or-treaters that I have to attend to. Any questions? What would concave look like? Okay, sorry. So if I had if I was projecting this onto a bowl, like the inside of a bowl. Aha. Yeah. Okay, so let's think about that. That's a good question. Joy, you always have such good questions. Okay, so I think that kind of like a globe from I'm gonna do this oblique so that I can show a little bit of what I'm doing. So if I have a bowl, right? And I'm gonna draw it a little bit oblique so that you can see the other side. Because if I draw it head on, it's you may have seen that in like optical illusions where you have like egg crates, and depending on the lighting, you can't tell whether you're seeing the inside or the outside, because all of that is dependent on the lighting. So if you're looking at it perfectly head on, it'll look exactly like a globe. Depending on lighting, right? So the only thing that would change is where the lighting hits. If you have it be a little bit oblique, so that you have, you're looking at a bowl. So say this is my bowl, right? But I'm looking at it at an angle. So, you know, here's the bowl, right? Here's the bottom of the bowl. Make sense? I'm drawing this in pencil. That is visible, right? Yeah, okay, good. Sometimes when I draw in really light pencil, it's not super visible on screen. Okay, so I have the bottom of my bowl is going to be somewhere in here, right? So I can draw from here out to here, and I can draw, like I'm going to divide it up just like I would divide up like I would divide up a globe. Right, so in that case, I can actually see. So all of my, okay, let me try to explain what I'm doing here. All of my, okay, I'm going to back way up because I feel like probably some people are going to have the background of what I'm doing right here and some people aren't. So when you draw a circle, right, the quality of a circle or of a curve, any kind of curve, is that at no point is there a corner, right? So if I draw a line here, then right at this point, it's going to be at the same angle, right? And if I draw a line here, so basically I just draw as many sides as I want, and I can keep on subdividing it, and it's always going to be, it's just infinite sides. Okay, so if I take a circle, usually I do this demonstration with a coin, but because I'm in my studio and the nearest thing was this cedar hanger thing, it was like to protect sweaters. Don't know why it's on my desk, but it is. So if I take this thing, right, and I look at it head on, I'm going to see a circle. Now, if I look at it, sorry, I'm trying to see this from your angle. If I have it like this, yes, the temptation is to draw like this sort of shape, where you've got a corner here and a corner here. But the truth is, no matter how much you tilt it, you can look at it at a coin, you're never going to have those corners because it's still a curve. So you still have to kind of start your curve this way. Like you have to start drawing upwards and then curve out so that at no point do you have a corner, even when you've got it really, really thin, right? So even if I've got it this thin, even if I've got it even thinner, even if I'm looking at it just barely over it all, an ellipse. Yes, an ellipse. That's the word. Good job. Words are failing me today, but Jenny is here to rescue me. Anyway, even if I have it really, really head on, I'm still not going to have those corners, right? So if I'm drawing a bowl and I'm drawing it perfectly head on, the only way you know that that is a bowl and not a globe is because of the lighting. Because if you have if you're looking perfectly head on and you don't have any distortion from your eyes and you don't have any interaction from your face blocking the light, so this works really only in photographs. You can have an egg crate or a bowl, and if everything is lined up perfectly, you can't tell if it's a bowl or a globe. Because all of this, the only thing that tells those two shapes apart on geometry alone is lighting. Does that make sense? Back in time. Sorry, I'm not sure what you're getting at here. Okay, so back to what I'm doing here. So here I am drawing myself a bowl, but because I'm trying to communicate what this is going to look like, instead of drawing it round, I'm going to draw it as a bowl. I'm drawing it tipped on its side, right? So here I've got one ellipse, which is the opening of the bowl. Sort of like I'm looking at the inside of a globe. And then here I've got the bottom of the bowl, right? And it runs into this side perfectly evenly, and it runs into this side perfectly evenly. There's no sharp corner there. And then when I come back here, there's no sharp corner there, right? Okay. So we're all in understanding about that. Now, if I were to subdivide this, so I take this middle point here, right? And I take a middle point here. Now I need to draw a curve that goes from this point through this end and back out here, right? So this isn't going to be seen, but it's still there. Now, again, if I were to take this and I'm just going to float my pencil, right? And then here, I'm actually then going to draw this like this. So the orange is going to be the section that I don't see. So if I take my orange again, right? And okay, so here. So this one goes from here to here, which means this one is going to go from here, this point where it's going to be flat. It's going to go from here down to here. Yes? And I'm not going to see this section because it's hidden by the edge of the bowl. Yeah? Are we still following? But I am going to see this one because it's on my outside of the bowl. projecting a grid onto a bowl would look the same as your original grid in the corner. It would look the same as this one. You don't know if this is the inside of a, well, sorry, you know that this is the outside of a globe because you are seeing the whole globe. But if I were to give you, it would look like this if I was looking head on straight into a bowl. It would look like segments of an orange. If I was looking straight on into a bowl, it would look like this. So it would look like I was looking at the top of a globe. So looking at the top, looking at the straight on at the inside of a bowl looks exactly like looking straight on at the top of a globe. So if you think of the top of a globe, you have your like pizza sections here. Yes? And then you have your latitude rings that get running around like this. That I've done a really poor job of drawing, but I don't know if that is the outside of a globe or the inside of a globe, the outside of a bowl or the inside of a bowl, without lighting. Now, if I shade it, then that gives it away. Or if I tilt it even slightly. But the same thing applies. You have a curve, so you're going to have some distortion. You have to decide what your projection is. So there are different ways of projecting onto a globe. This is the common one. This, you do your latitude lines, your horizontal lines as straight lines, and your vertical lines as these curved things. That's the common way of wrapping a globe. But there are many ways of wrapping a globe. I know some people who are very nerdy about that specific problem. And so there are very many ways of wrapping a grid onto any 3D shape. But that's complicated enough with a globe that once you add extra complication, it's best to just stick to a strategy that you got from the globe and then adapt it to your egg or your pumpkin or your bowl. But where that would come in, if you're looking at it head on, it would come in like you would draw the shape exactly like you would draw the outside of a bowl. If you're drawing a bowl viewed, yeah, no, like no matter what it is, even if it's a pumpkin, but it's just flipped out so that like you're looking at a room that's, you know, if I was inside the pumpkin and I was looking at a room that looks like this, right? Then it would be the same except for the shadows. The shadows would look very different. Okay, so I've been going for about 90 minutes. Do we have any more questions? I hope I answered that satisfactorily. But anyway, so this is a related thing that maybe I should make a whole video, a whole blog post about. It's useful if you're drawing stems or leaves or whatever to understand those hidden lines and understand this corner issue. Anyway, thanks for the very, very intelligent question, Joy. You always do have the best questions. Sorry, I had this one backwards. I was wondering why this looked so weird. Because it's here, right? So if I go here, yeah. So this one then, if I were to put this at a slightly different place than the other one, and then go through here. So it's going to go there. Right? Okay, anyway. And now I've just ordered this one too. I need to get out of here. Helps to have a lot of things I don't know. Oh, there's a lot of things I don't know. And then there's a lot of things that I'm explaining right now with diagrams that are wrong. I'll fix it. Anyway, I should probably go set up my pumpkin and get ready for some trick-or-treaters. Since we have Halloween candy. So unless there's any other questions, I will end this Halloween special and move on to actual Halloween. You done? Thanks everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.